Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. On today's show, we'll check in with Ames Electric Services and the Energy Guy. My guest today is Steve Wilson, Ames Electric Services Energy Guy. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's always great to have you here, and we're in the middle of kind of a high consumption season.
Yeah, summers are busy places around an electric utility. There's a conspiracy out there between hot weather and high humidity that drives our demand for electricity up. And so if we're going to be thinking about conserving energy and reducing the demand for electricity, now's a pretty good time.
So there are a lot of tools that we offer Ames residents, those who are customers of Ames Electric Services, in order to drive their energy consumption down. Can you tell me about some of those tools?
Well, I think probably the most important tool that a homeowner and a small business, let's say, could participate in through smart energy is the energy audit. An energy audit is identifying areas in a person's home or business where they can reduce energy consumption. They get a report back from the auditor that makes recommendations on, maybe it's their lighting, maybe it's their air conditioning, maybe it's something to do with their business building shell. But the point is, it's a good baseline. It's a good established starting point for them to then do more things or do some things in their business or their home to save energy. Larger businesses, industrial customers, we certainly can do audits in there. It's a more involved process, but in terms of your average homeowner, that would be an ideal place to start. Now, after that, once they get their report, let's say, and then they look at it and it says, well, you could stand to upgrade your lighting, to move from incandescence to something more efficient. We have a rebate if a customer installs efficient lighting. What we see in homes are typically compact fluorescent light bulbs, or now we're seeing a lot of LED light bulbs being installed. We have rebates for those, same in the businesses.
So it's interesting, you can have an energy audit, you can identify different things that need to be replaced or upgraded. The audit is conducted free of charge.
That's right.
And then as you work towards some of those audit bullet points, we can again encourage you through more rebates. You mentioned lighting, also appliances?
Yep, appliances, and that's something that they'll cover in the audit. They'll look at the appliances. They'll talk to the homeowner about the age and the possibility of upgrading to something more efficient. If it's a refrigerator, a freezer, a dishwasher, or a washing machine, and it's Energy Star rated, then it's eligible for a rebate as well through the smart energy programs.
And some of those items, well, obviously the refrigerator you're using every single day.
Yeah.
Some people are using their dishwasher and washing machine every day. Really can make a difference if you have an inefficient model.
It can. It's interesting because if you're curious, let's say, what is my refrigerator actually using in terms of electricity? Is sort of a side program. It's not part of smart energy, but we do it through the utility. We can check out an appliance meter. Someone can come down to my office, they check out a meter, they go home, they plug that in. Now they plug the refrigerator into that, and it can tell them exactly how much it's using and what it's costing them. And so if there's a borderline, gee, should I replace it for something more efficient? Where does it make economic sense for me to do that? We can help the customer determine that by metering the old appliance to help them to make that decision. Other programs that we have that the audit might pick up are air conditioning. If it's determined that the air conditioner is old and maybe it's using a lot of power, the audit might make a recommendation that they look into replacing it. Well, if the air conditioner is an efficient one, and efficient meaning it has a seasonal energy efficiency rating, or SEER, of 14 or above, then it's eligible for a rebate. And so that's sort of key for some folks because it's difficult to understand or maybe to justify replacing a perfectly good working air conditioner or refrigerator or some appliance with a more efficient one. And so a lot of what I do, especially this time of year, is helping folks understand what the paybacks are by going to a more efficient piece of equipment, and then does that satisfy their criteria for replacing the old one. It's not necessarily the best direction to take, replacing an existing piece of equipment that works with a more efficient one. There is a point at which that makes sense, but economically you have to get to satisfy some certain criteria.
Sure, and air conditioning is a big ticket item for most people, and it's not something that you would just pick up one day.
Yeah, that's true. So when we look at what we can do for the businesses and the homes in Ames, there's quite a bit there, but I think it does start with the audit.
Well, and just a side note on the air conditioner rebate, you do rebate the window units.
Yes, we do. And in fact, I got a phone call yesterday. Someone was asking how many window units can I get a rebate on. The claim form says 3, but we really don't limit that. It's actually a fairly decent way to cool a home is by incorporating smaller window units that they can zone throughout the home. And likewise, they would have to be Energy Star rated, and we pay a rebate on those. That's we do the same thing essentially for the large businesses, but we do it a little differently because of the need for larger pieces of equipment and more complex pieces of equipment. We do rebate those, but we do that on our custom program where we take a before and after snapshot, how much energy is actually saved by going to this, and the rebate's based on savings. So there is an incentive for everyone out there in the Ames service territory if they go to more efficient equipment or appliances.
So we mentioned the rebates. We've got the air conditioning, the appliance, the home energy audit. All of these are under the Smart Energy umbrella.
Right.
You've provided a lot of details, but again, if people want information about those programs, they are on our website at cityofames.org under the Smart Energy button. Now, one of the programs we haven't talked about are the load management programs, the air conditioning program, Primetime Power.
Primetime Power has been in existence. It's the longest running demand program, if you will, in Ames. It started in 1994. What that program is, with the permission of the homeowner, we go out and attach a radio-controlled device to the air conditioner that when it's hot and humid and we need to reduce demand for electricity, we send out a radio signal from the top of the power plant. The switch picks it up. It stops the air conditioner from running for 7.5 minutes out of every half an hour during the afternoon when we need the reductions. Right now we have about 9,500 switches out there in Ames, and our ability then is to, it enables us to reduce demand by somewhere between 3 and 4 megawatts, which if we do that consistently every summer saves the utility millions of dollars.
So to put that those megawatts in context, what is our peak use of electricity in Ames?
The peak was set in 2012 at 130 megawatts. And so 4 megawatts, 3 megawatts doesn't necessarily sound like much, but there are a lot of hot days when that 2 or 3 megawatts keeps us from setting a new peak. One of the realities of running an electric utility is the higher the peaks go, the more expensive it is to operate the utility over time, and that leads into higher rates. So if we can keep that demand pushed down summer after summer after summer, then it pushes off having to build a new generator.
Right, and there are sort of federal capacity regulations surrounding that peak number. So when the peak climbs, that's an expense for everybody.
Yeah, it's and that's really the ultimate goal, but for smart energy programs, whether it be renewable energy components, whether it's the rebate component, whether it's the education component, whether it's the load management component, it's all aimed at reducing our costs so that we save in the future. Now, the homeowner, the business, they have the advantage of saving right now, because anything you do to improve your efficiency is going to reduce your cost. But the big picture is to reduce our costs over time so that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we have to add a new generator, if we've been successful, now instead of having to replace a generator with 100 megawatt capacity, maybe we only have to put in a 75, which saves a tremendous amount of money. And again, this all feeds into what we pay as ratepayers. So the idea is if we all pitch in together in Ames If we all do our part to conserve energy, to participate in the existing programs that we have, then we are saving ourselves and our children dollars, which is a good sustainability direction to take.
So one last program that we haven't really talked about is the Power Watch program, which is sort of a color recognition system so people can take action at appropriate times.
Yeah, Power Watch, it was interesting because one of the things we realized early on in my career with the city was that it wasn't necessarily intuitive that people understood the correlation between hot and humid weather and the demand for electricity. Now, being from the electric utility, it all seems second nature to us. We understand that the demand climbs in the summertime. But people weren't necessarily thinking about that. They didn't necessarily understand that connection. And so what PowerWatch does for us is it gives us a visual aid, and it gives us some information on what we can do as the demand for electricity climbs throughout the day or throughout the season. It identifies it, first of all, that it is at a certain level. We start out at green, which is just normal. A power plant can easily handle the load. It rises a little bit to blue, and now that's an area where we want to be prepared. We want to start thinking about saving energy. We go up to condition yellow, which is, okay, now we're getting serious here. We're getting some high demands. Let's do what we can to reduce the demand. And then, of course, if it goes very high, then we call a peak alert, which is condition red. And then we with each of those steps, we give folks action items that they can participate in to help reduce the amount of electricity we need at any of those levels. So at a glance, if you are able to look at the PowerWatch gauge on the website, you would, or the PowerWatch button on the main city webpage, it changes color. You'll notice that. It starts out green, goes to blue, goes to yellow, goes to red as the corresponding demand rises through the day. So at a glance, you know, well, maybe it's time I shut off my lights. And maybe I should limit my exterior door openings and closings. Now's the time I don't want to use my oven. I want to use eat cold foods, for instance. Close my drapes against the heating rays of the sun. Turn my thermostat up 5 degrees. You know, so it tells us when, not only that we need to do these things, but when we need to do them.
And again, you mentioned that information is available on our website. There is the PowerWatch button. That does change colors, and you see the temperature right there. So that connection is really obvious to people and helps them not only understand the connection between the increase in energy use and the increase in temperature, but those great tips on how to conserve.
Yeah, it's interesting because as far as we know, there's no other utility in the nation that has a program like PowerWatch that sort of gives the customer that visual aid and a sort of an action plan to help the utility reduce the demand for electricity. I get calls periodically. People see it on the website and they go, "Oh, what is that?" And they want me to explain it to them. So it's it's sort of an unexciting program throughout a lot of the year because, over the winter we have plenty of capacity, it's green all the time, but boy, I tell you what, for that 4 months in the summer, it's not only important, but it's interesting to watch that change and to kind of monitor that. So information is power, and if we put the information in our customers' hands, then they have the power to reduce the demand for electricity. That saves a lot of energy and a lot of money.
Well, that's a great way to end. Thank you, Steve. That's some great information. Again, an overview of all the smart energy programs. We really appreciate that, both for residential customers and commercial customers. We don't leave anybody out.
Right.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Again, if you want more information about any of the smart energy programs, just go to our website, cityofames.org, and click on the smart energy button. You can learn more about the entire program of sustainability in Ames by clicking on Go Green. You can learn more about things like rain barrel rebates and water conservation as well. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.